In this video, I'm going to work through problem 0C of the Test 1 practice from session 6. You should live code with this, live code. That means that as I'm talking through the problem, I'll give you pause points and you solve the problem at those pause points as best you can. If you're having troubles, then you go a little ahead in the video and pause it then and work your way through. It'll do you no good if you just watch the solutions. You have to think alongside. So I go to do 1. It says to put my name there. I will do so. You should do so right now. Put your name in there, just like I'm doing. Write live coding with me. Change it to done. Go ahead and run to be sure we haven't broken anything. Notice that we've got test cases, more test cases. Looks good. We're failing the test cases right now because we haven't implemented problem 0 yet. Pause the video if you haven't yet gotten your name in there. Then once you've gotten your name in there and said done, go ahead. Okay, so I clicked on the blue bar to get to the first of the real to-dos, to do 2. It says this problem. It says, first of all, that we must use the sum of digits function defined above. So I'm going to go back to the beginning. Maybe I should have done this from the start. And notice that there was an isPrime function that returns true if the given integer is prime, but if it's not prime, it returns false. So I have a prime tester. And I have a sum of digits function that takes an n and returns the sum of the digits in that integer. For example, the integer is 83,135. This function returns 8 plus 3 plus 1 plus 3 plus 5, which happens to be 20. Okay, so I'm going to use those functions. All right, so here's the test. So we see that there's already tests for us. And we're to implement this thing. And it gives us a hint. So don't miss hints on the exam. To tell whether a number is odd or even, you divide it by 2 and take the remainder. And that m%2 is the notation for that. If the remainder is 0, the number is even. The remainder is 1, the number is odd. Just think about it. Numbers like 18, when you divide by 2, no remainder, remainder 0. Numbers like 24, another even one, divide by 2, remainder 0. Even ones, remainder 0. Numbers that are odd, 31 divided by 2, remainder is 1. Odd numbers have remainder of 1. So we'll keep that in mind, and from here out, you should keep it in mind as well, because we may ask questions like that on the test. So you now know how to tell whether something is odd or even. So this one says that we're going to return true if the sum of the digits in the given integer is odd. So you should pause the video right now and think through a solution. If you can get one, go ahead and type it in, pausing the video. But as soon as you're having troubles or if you're not making progress, then watch a little bit of the video. I'm going to start the problem out. I'm going to make a mistake, by the way, on the way, so you might want to sort of watch for that. So it says, first of all, I'm going to minimize this pink. See a little symbol there? Click on it. Pink is minimized. Click it again, comes back. Lets me see the entire problem more easily. So it says true if the sum of the digits in the given integer is odd. So I'm going to say if sum of digits, and I'll let it type it for me. If the sum of that digits and again, I'm going to make a mistake. If it's equal to 2, I've just made a mistake, so don't repeat that. I'm going to return true. Otherwise, I'm going to return false. Hopefully you wrote something better than that, but I purposely made a mistake. So I'm going to run over here, and I see that I'm failing some of my tests. So I could actually plug in, look through a test and see what I've done wrong, but I think I can spot this one from just rereading it. Returns true if the sum of the digits is odd. To test whether something is odd, what do you put there? Pause the video and think. To tell whether it's odd, you divide by 2, check the remainder, and you don't check whether it's equal to 2, you check whether it's 1 to see whether it's odd. Take the number, sum of digits of n, divide by 2 and take the remainder. If that remainder is 1, return true. Notice the double equal for comparison. Let's run it again. And false, false, true, true, false, 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 false. It looks like it's passing the test. So I think we've successfully done problem 1 now. Let's turn to problem 0A. Now let's turn to 0B. Again, you should pause the video at this point and get the solution to 0A. Here, let's put it up there again for just a sec. So you should pause the video at this point and get that solution into your code if you haven't already. Now I assume you're ready for problem B. It says an integer, at least 2, comes in, and it returns the number of integers from 2 to n that are prime, 2 to n inclusive. It says we got to call the isPrime function. So you should think about that problem right now. Try to write a solution. Pause the video, try to write a solution, but as soon as you're either stuck or not making progress or getting something wrong, just unpause the video and I'll work through it. Again, you should pause the video and take an attempt at the problem at this time. I'll assume you've made that attempt, and so let's see here. This says the number of integers from 2 to n that are prime. So this sounds like a counting problem, the number of something. So I'm going to have a variable count, and what should I set it to? Go ahead and type right along with me. Should set that one to 0 if I'm adding up stuff. Then I have to write a loop. Again, go ahead and write just ahead of me, be typing ahead of me right while I'm typing if you know what to do. So I'm going to have some variable, I'll call it k, in some range. And I'm supposed to go from 2 to n. Well, from 1 to n would be n things. 2 to n, therefore, is 1 less, n minus 1. I'm just going to double check that before I get any further. If n is 13, I would be doing 0 through 12, 0 to 12. So let's see here. If n is 13, it would have 12 here. 2, 3, 4, I'm just using my fingers. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 11 seems to be the right answer when n was 12, and 12 minus 1 was 11. Anyhow, I've convinced myself it's right. So then we want to count them if they are prime. Again, pause the video, work ahead of me. If, I'm going to check whether the integer that we're interested in, which is k, is prime. K is prime. Is prime of k. Now, you could write it as whether that's equal to true, and then you could say that your count, what should happen to the count now? Again, type ahead of me. Pause the video if you need to. Count goes up by 1. But it's, once you get used to it, equivalent and clearer to just say if is prime. See, is prime returns either true or false. It returns true, well, that means it's prime and we should count. Or it returns false, that means the if is false and we don't count. If that's not clear to you, you can use the is prime double equal true approach. Anyhow, then we go ahead and return count. So I'm going to test, see how that does. And here's B. Oops, looks like I've made an error. Didn't get the count right. I bet you I did something wrong with I bet you I did something wrong with this n minus 1. Let's try that again. If n is 13, I should be looking at the numbers from 2 to 13. If n is 13, well, I should do 1 less than 13 things. That looks right. And then I'm going to check this one here. Let's see, this checks if prime 0 the first time. That's not right. I want to start at 2. So I have to add 2 there. that will make these numbers go 2, 3, 4, etc. Let's test again. And 6, 6, 1, 1, 46, passing the test. That gives me confidence. Doesn't mean it's necessarily right, but gives me confidence. Again, pause the video at this point and get your own solution in there if you haven't already done so. I'm going to assume now that you've got your solution there, and we're going down to the third and last problem, 0C. This one says that what comes in, it says we have a picture to look at. So let's look at that picture, picture 0C. So I'm going to open it up. Some of you, by the way, let's get that smaller. Let's see if that'll fit on the screen. There we go. Some of you, by the way, will have to right-click to and open with and choose System Editor for some of you. It's my default editor, but for you, you may have to choose System Editor to open a PDF. Anyhow, going back to that PDF that's under there. Where'd it go? There we are. It says that what we're supposed to do, well, test 1, we have a circle, a blue circle, and n is 6, and it looks like we're to make 6 things just to the right. Here's another one, green circle, 3 things, same size, just to the right. Red circle, 10 things, just to the right. And it says we should have the circle show up with a half-second pause each time. So let's see, let's first of all read the thing, make sure it's right. We get a circle, a number n, and a window, and we're to draw the circle and n more circles such that the circles form a touching row of circles, leftmost being the given one. And there's to be a half-second pause after each one's drawn, and there's a hint for that rendering with 0.5 renders with a half-second pause. We must not close the window. That's per the spec. That's because the caller has that duty. So we're going to go over here, and the first thing I see is it should draw the given circle. So I'm going to get just that part right, just that part. And you should do the same. Work in parts as you go through these problems. So here we go. To make the circle show up, we just have to take it, the circle itself, dot, to remind ourselves how to do things, click to let it type for us so we don't mistype, attach to the window. So that's one thing you have to do to get the thing going. And then you have to take the window and render. We'll just do a regular render for now. So we should see the blue circle show up. There it is. Good job. If we continue to the next case, the green circle, third test case, red circle. So I think we're good. All right. Then we want to do n more circles. So that means we need a loop. So again, work ahead of me here. Work ahead of me or type with me. Write a loop that goes n times. So that's going to be for some variable k, say, in range n. Again, just pause the video if I'm going too fast for you, and then at different points. And inside there, it's to draw circles. And they're supposed to be touching and to the right of each other. So I'm going to do that now. Let's see. I'll need a circle. I'll call it circle, I don't know, circle 1. And I'll use that variable instead of circle for all my new ones. And it's going to be an RG circle. That's what it's got to be. And I hover over the word circle, click in the yellow to make it not go away, and I see that a circle needs a center and a radius. So I'm going to give it a center and a radius, and before this I have to establish the values for those. Let's do radius first. They're all supposed to have the same radius as the original circle. So I'm going to say radius equal, try that again, radius, you should be typing with me, What should it be equal to be the radius of the given circle? Well, the given circle, here, let me make it a little more visible there. The given circle, I'll minimize that as well so we can see it all. The given circle is the one called circle. So we take that circle and the dot, and we're looking to see what's its radius. And even if you hadn't remembered, you could just scroll on down till you see something that looks right. Surely it's just the word radius. Again, double click to let it type for you. So now we've got a radius. We also need a center. So let's give an initial value for that center. Now that one's going to change each time. So I think what I will do, well, we'll do it this way. Center equal an RG point. And the very first time through the loop, I think I'm going to actually do this in, do this inside the loop. You can do it either way. But I'm going to do it here. So I need a center. It needs to be a point. And the very first time, it should be just to the right of the other circle. So I'm going to give it an x and a y. And again, define values for x and y. So my x, well, think about what the first x value should be. That's just to the right of the given circle. Looks like it should be the given circle's centers. So I just started typing and it did it for me. And I remember that center being a point has a dot x. If you didn't remember that, you would briefly make a point, hover over, put a dot after it, and then look around here for what's up, and there it is, an x. Having learned that it's a dot x, you would throw away that temporary line. But I remembered it was a dot x anyhow. So I want the center of that one, and then I want it to move over by 2 radii to be sort of next to the other one. So radius times 2. I don't like to remember precedence rules, so I'm going to put parentheses there, even though that would have worked without them. And then I'm going to get my y value. My y's are all going to be, well, at the same level, so it's going to be the circle's center's y. So now I'm going to test whether the first circle shows up 1. Let's see, I haven't done anything with it yet. I bet you I have to attach it to make it show up. So I'm just going to see whether that first one shows up. And there it is. It actually drew it n times, but on top of itself. So that test worked, and that test worked. So good. Now I'll finish off the problem by changing the relevant variables for the next time through the loop. Pause, think about for a moment, of these variables, what has to change for the next time through the loop to give a circle to the right of the one that we've called circle 1. Pause the video, think about that. And then once you've got that, go ahead and type what you think is right here. Again, pause the video. I hope you've thought that what needs to change is possibly the x and possibly the y. And if you think about it, the y doesn't have to change because they're all at the same level. The x has to move over by twice the radius. And it has to not become equal to that. It has to be what it was plus twice the radius. X becomes what it was plus twice the radius. Let's test and see. And we get the right number of circles, 6, 3. This test case says 10 circles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Last thing we have to do is to get the rendering right. It says that we're supposed to render with a half-second pause. That means that what we need to do is move this render inside the loop. Let's see, it should happen before each of these circles, so we'll do it, yeah, right in here would be a good place. So we'll take that window and we'll render with a half-second pause. Let's see what that does as we do it here. So here comes, a little slow there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Watch it with the green one. Green, there's that half-a-second pause before each one. And the red, half-a-second pauses before each one. I suppose I didn't get the pause right after the first one, so technically I should have rendered this here with a half-second pause, so there's it's not bundled with the previous one. Slightly better. So that completes the solution, and I'll leave it up here on the screen so that you can get yours right if you haven't already. I do notice that there's a warning message. I never leave warning messages because maybe they're real warning, or maybe they're bad. Warnings are sometimes errors. It says unused variable k. Well, yeah, I didn't use k. There's a trick there. You can change it to the bizarre variable name underscore, and when you do that and then save or run the file, Eclipse knows that you don't intend to use that, so it takes away the warning. As always, I do a quick run, make sure that I've in fact still working, so do that. And I think we're done. Again, work through this video at your own pace, typing along with the exercises.